My name's Father J. Donahue. I'm right now the administrator at St. Simon and Jude Parish in Scott Township. I come from a really big family, and we were actually going on a family vacation. And I have 5 sisters, 2 brothers. My dad tried to get all the plane tickets in the right row, and I got bumped being the oldest son, so I had to go sit in the back of this plane. And I was going to put my, at that point, Walkman on and listen to some Guns N' Roses and veg out for the flight. And this guy next to me nudged me as, just basically a guy who was dressed up in a golf shirt and khaki pants. And he started to ask me, he goes, "Well, where'd you go to high school?" I went to Central Catholic. And he started to challenge me on everything from abortion to divorce to the Pope to Mary to this and that. And all of a sudden, he just really started to, just disagree with everything that I thought was part of my belief system. And as we're about to land, I remember the announcements were made. We got to put everything away, and the wheels were coming up on the plane. He looks at me and he goes, "You know what? I think you're going to be a priest." And I was a junior in high school. The last thing I thought of at that point was to be a priest. And he goes, "I'm a priest." And I'm just playing the devil's advocate. And he turned out he was a chaplain at Villanova College in Philadelphia. And I looked over at him and I said, "I'll jump out of an airplane before I become a priest." That was the first time I'd ever thought of it. Priest just happened to be incognito in an airplane, and he told me that he thought that I would be a priest. Turns out he was right. So I went away to college. I was at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville when I started to really think of what my future was going to hold. And so I had started at summer internships working at Federated Investors, and then had the opportunity to work up on Wall Street with a specialist firm called James Jacobson and Sons. And I thought the business world was for me. I loved the excitement. I loved the thrill of the exchange and millions of dollars going back and forth, and thought it was in my DNA. My grandfather and my dad had both had great lives as businessmen, or still are alive now, and just really good role models for me. But when I got up to Wall Street, I remember that walking off there the last day after 3 months of just really living it up in the Big Apple, I just remember walking off there, all the paper on the ground, and I shook hands with the guy who was, the vice president at this time, James Jacobson. And he said, "I hope that we could continue to have you working here after you finish college." And when he said that, there was something in my heart that was like, okay, I do that, and then what? It was almost as if I got this fast forward on my life as a businessman. And I kept thinking, well, at what price would then I truly be happy and fulfilled? At what salary? At what type of job? And it's as if everything got projected out in this time when I was walking off the Wall Street, off to the New York Stock Exchange, and never could figure out, when would I be happy? At what price? At when? I think that the number one thing that touched my life there was meeting Pope John Paul II. When you see and touch somebody like John Paul II, you realize he's a man who was a skier, he was an actor, he was hilarious, he was somebody who really believed that it's the love of human beings and it's the love of God that are going to really transform our lives. So anyway, he comes into this huge church with like 5,000 people, and the feeling that you got inside of this church was just incredible. As he started to walk closer, you started to see everybody who touched him had these just amazing tears of joy. And it was as if, it was kind of like this tidal wave of just joy coming right at you. And as he started to get closer, you could see all the tears and all the faces of people just truly moved by this. And he's getting closer and closer. I could remember I was about 10 feet away from him, and as he got closer, I'm thinking, gosh, if I could only touch his hand somehow, some way. And he looks right at me, and I jump out and grab his hand. And I think that shaking his hand and being able to just experience his joy for life and the peace that he brought to me was absolutely different than shaking hands with a guy on Wall Street, where money and all this type of lifestyle was kind of promised to you in some way. It was as if with this lifestyle, it was an interior joy, a peace, and enthusiasm that you could actually transform lives. And I guess that's what I wanted to invest the rest of my life in. And I just thought, how could I say no to a God who has given me such a beautiful family, blessed me with the talents and the gifts that he's given me? How don't I give him the first shot? I wrapped up my last week at college, and the year before I'd asked my parents to go skydiving, and they told me no. So I thought the second year of college, instead of asking them for permission, I'd ask them for pardon, and decided to go skydiving with one of my friends, Mike Pitts. And as we paid $45 for this thrill of a lifetime, we got up about 12,000 feet, and I thought of that moment where this priest had told me, "You're going to become a priest." And I jumped. And I have to admit that it was worth the jump into Jesus' arm and still in the thrill of a lifetime as a priest.